Hey, good morning, everybody. Here we are in a nice, cool St. Augustine, Florida this morning. My name is Mike Uzena of Menorcan Magic Handmade Cast Nets. In case I've never really told you anything about me, I'm a state of Florida master folk life artist in the art of making fishing nets. Enough of that. What I want to do today is go over several things. One in particular, let me answer a quick question because I get lots of questions and I love them, for either phone calls or emails, and I don't like to give people's name. I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I got a question from a gentleman who wanted to know how many sinkers does it take for a 3-foot net? Well, I can't answer that question accurately because I have no idea how many widenings he's put in it. But the simple answer is count the meshes around the bottom of that net, however big it is, whether it's 3 foot or 20 foot. Count the meshes around it times, what's that, times 2. So if it's got 600 meshes, it's going to take 300 sinkers. If it's got 100 meshes, it's going to take 50 sinkers. That's the way I make nets. Now you can do what you like, you can put less, but to answer his question adequately, it's count the number of meshes around the bottom, and half of that's how many sinkers. Like I said, 100 meshes would be 50 sinkers. Okay, hope that helps you. I'll answer the email later. I want to go over a couple of quick things. Something come to mind. Phil and I were making sinkers here a couple of weeks back for a net that I've got just headed to Texas, just finished, just going to Texas. I told him about this mole I had that had belonged to a late uncle of mine. This sinker mold was made out of brass. It was made at a FEC Railroad. The headquarters was here in St. Augustine for many years, back from the time of Henry Flagler. Henry Flagler started the FEC Railroad. And the headquarters here in St. Augustine had a huge place out north of town out there. It's called Miller's Shops. And that's where the engines, old steam engines, and later the diesel engine would come in one end and for their maintenance, overhaul, whatever, and out the other end. And those guys out there, they were machinists and they were this and that and the other, but they were, a lot of them were our Menorcan cousins, Menorcan ancestors, and they made homemade products. Everybody is a machinist. Every place I worked, Fairchild, I've had buddies that were machinists. Anyway, this is a brass sinker mold, and the little rod that goes in the end, and the little ladle for dipping the lead. See that, Phil?
Got it.
Okay, I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to close this and I'm going to run the rod in it. I've made a lot of sinkers, not with this mold, but one similar. I had one, my father had it, made 2 mullet nets and 1 shrimp net. This one makes just 1 mullet net and 1 shrimp net. But anyway, you put the rod in there and you pour your lead in the thing. And what a pain in the butt is you have to, this is really a 2-person operation. You do it much quicker. Pour the lead in it, you pull the rod, you have to coat this with wax, or I use soap. Then you knock your sinkers out. Okay. Probably somewhere between the early 1930s to the early 1940s that mold was made. Here's the sinkers that came out of that. That's a nice little mullet net sinker. Phil and I like that shrimp net. We really like that little shrimp net sinker. But anyway, exactly 1 ounce. It's a little heavier than I like. My molds that I use are about 20-22 to the pound instead of 16. However, it makes a beautiful sinker. Okay, enough of that. Let's move on to something that I hadn't covered in a while. For new people look at this stuff all the time, I'm sure. I want to go over some needles. This needle here, My father was born in 1900. This was his needle. I've watched him make nets using this needle. He said it's made out of hickory. I'm not sure. It looks like it's oak to me, but it's very well done. Very smooth and nice, but the gap in here is wide. I learned you don't want a gap that wide, but I got to understand that when he was making this, they were made out of cotton, and it was a larger diameter twine. That so you wanted a wider gap. But anyway, he made a lot of nets for that up until probably the later 1950s, and once I got proficient, started making nets all the time. Anything he needed, I made for him. He didn't have to make any more nets. But anyway, that was his needle. Okay, now I'm going to show you my first needle. This needle's made out of bamboo. I've showed this before, but anyway, you notice I like the longer needle, and perhaps I learned that you want a close gap, Phil. You got a close look at that gap, right? See how close that gap is? That way that cord stays on that needle. It won't come off on you. That thing, I used to fill this needle 4 times off of a 1/4 pound spool of bonded nylon. Anyway, I used that needle up into 1960. Then, when I went to work at Fairchild and got exposed to all the fancy equipment, the saws and aluminum, I made my needles, and I used aluminum needles for a long time. You can see that's made out of, probably I'd say 0.63 thousandths aluminum, handmade. What I did, this was just a flat piece of aluminum, and what I did, I took and I take a number 40 drill bit, and I would drill holes just far enough where I could get a bandsaw up. I used to get the bandsaw and break the blade on it. Run the blade through the needle, weld it, put it back on the bandsaw, and cut that notch out. Trick to that, you had to do both sides, so you had to do it twice. Well, so I started just taking a damn hacksaw and filing it. Same with the shrimp net. Back to early shrimp net needles. I don't know what happened. I know I had a bamboo shrimp net needle. I've got stuff scattered around out in a shed out there, so I just don't recall what I did with it. Anyway, I made nets for many years with I quit using that bamboo because it split on me. It split, and I glued it back, and I used it for a while, but I stopped when I got into now, and of course the more modern times. I love ebony. Phil knows about, hearing me bragging about ebony all the time. I love the ebony. That beautiful grain to that thing. It's just pretty. And notice that gap, how close it is. But with this Dacron, you gotta have a close gap. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you don't, it's gonna come loose on you. It comes loose on the needle. It gets real messy on there, and I don't know. Okay, so now one last thing, a little last quickie, and I'm not going to go into this. I've got a net there. I've got a 7-foot mullet net that you heard me talk about. What is this fit?
A fid.
A fid.
F-I-D.
F-I-D. It's just nothing but a little plastic tube with a point on one end and a hole in the other end. I'm going to take this 3/8. These come in different diameters, by the way. I only got 2. I've got one for 1/4 inch rope and one for the 3/8. What you do, you take this and you just slide it in there. You just slide it in there till it stops. Then you're gonna come in here at some point where however long you want your line, and you're gonna come in here like this, and I'm gonna just punch this into that hollow braid, and I'm gonna slide it
What do you call that?
I'm going
Poly?
too fast. Going too fast for you?
No. What do you call that line? Poly?
Poly.
Poly braid?
It's hollow braid poly rope, polyurethane. You just slide that along to I got this. I went in a little bit, and I'll pull that out and redo it. It needs to be. You don't really need this long, although it doesn't hurt anything. I mean, it doesn't hurt a damn thing. Ah, I can pull that back just. And that's what you do. Then you just simply pull this out. You just come right back in another spot there and pull it out, and that's it. How nice that is. And I wrap this with a line, one spot here, and I'm gonna pull this back. It's a little bit too. Okay, that's better.
You want your hand to slip off easy.
Yeah. All right. Okay. What I want to do today is another favorite question that I get about starting nets. Out my way. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this thing, get through this as quick as possible. And if you look at YouTube at different net makers, they do things different, and that's what I've told you time and time again. The way I do things is not the only way to do it. It's the way I was taught. You know, I questioned a net maker down Southwest Florida that was making nets, and I questioned the amount of widings he put in the net. And his simple answer was, that's the way I was taught. So that's it. Basically, that's the way you're taught. So that's the way you do it. Now, what I see them do this so many different ways. To me, and I said to me, this is the best way to do it. And the reason I say that is because you're going to see why in a bit. This is line, the same diameter line. I'm going to make the net out of 30-pound test Dacron. I'm doubling it. You see what I'm doing? I'm doubling it. And I'm going to come up here. And this is an important knot. You want this son of a gun good and tight, because this will slip over time pulling on it like I do. And so what I'll do with this, I'll take this son of a gun here like this and catch it like this. See, I'm putting some DBs on that son of a gun, pull it good and tight. Okay, now we're ready to start the net, and that's basically, and because this is what's going to go around that horn that you put in the top of that net. This is what's going to secure it. So why not start with this now instead of using rings and wire and different kinds. I've seen them use coat hangers and these little round rings. And when you finish the net, you've got to take the thing out and fish line through it. You don't have to do none of that with this. This, to me, is the best way to do it. That's me, all right? Not the only way, I'm telling you. Now I'm going to come over here and put this on the doorknob. I'm not going to do much of this. I'm going to take up much of your time. I'm just going to start it and tie a few. Now, what I do with my first row, like use a little bit bigger, a little bit larger diameter. Not diameter, gauge. What's the gauge? That's 3/4 of an inch. That's 3/4 of an inch. The net is going to be 5/8. That's going to be the actual size of the net right there. That's 5/8. That's 3/4 of an inch. But the reason I like to, just the first row, I like to use a little bit bigger because you lose so much of it that goes around the horn. However, better than explain that to you. I've done this before. This isn't something I've never done before, but I keep getting, people don't see this 50 plus videos I've got on YouTube. It's I guess it's a little bit hard to dig through them. But anyway, see what I'm fixing to do? I'm gonna guess that this being 3/4 of an inch doesn't make any difference. Doesn't make any difference about that. Actually, all right. Now, you've heard me say you have to double tie. You have to double, and this first one is the most important one in reference to good and tight. You really want to pull that one. I mean, you want that sucker tight. You don't want any chance of that slipping. You'll find out the hard way. I don't know how to explain that to you any better. But then I'm going to come up here and run that mesh board. And you know what? I don't know what I wasn't really thinking clearly. I really don't need to use this because here, this is going around the horn right here. That's going around the horn. So I really don't need to use that. Sometimes I wonder where I'm at. So I'm going to go right straight to the 5/8 because that is 3/4 and they're all going to be 3/4. I'm going to come in here like this, in between. I'm going to pull this down. Very important here. You got to really watch what you're doing now. Nice and even. And I'm going to double do this. I'm going to come through here. Somebody asked me a while back, could you use the Flying Dutchman on this first row? My answer is absolutely not. There's no way to use the Flying Dutchman. You see what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull it nice and tight. That's the first one. Now I'm going to do 41 of these. 41. And when I finish, I'm going to tie the tail and the line off the needle. We'll tie together the same width as this. And we're ready to continue. Starting of the circle. You hear me talk about a handmade net is nothing more than it's a continuous circle. You see what I'm going to do here, and you want to, and periodically you want to take and make sure you stay inside of that loop. Periodically you're going to stop and check this. You want these things to remain the same. From the first one to the last one. It's important. When you tie in, if that thing is uneven, you're in for trouble the whole length of that damn net. Believe me. You don't want it out of shape. So usually I don't do any counting for a while. I've done so many of these damn things that I can just look at it and tell how many, close, no way to tell exactly, but I tell within 4 or 5. All right. By the way, I love this color. This is it's called just simply called pink. Cortland thread. Line company. Wonderful people. Okay, see what I'm doing? I'm going to do that 41 times. I'm going to pull these off because you don't want to get too many on it. Now, remember I told you about the periodic check? What I'm talking about, you're going to catch this like this. See what got a good look at this, Phil?
Yeah.
What I'm looking for, so what the hell is he doing? What I'm looking for, you want these even up top? Can you see it?
Hold it steady.
See how those 2 knots match up? You got that?
Yep.
That's what you want to see. All the way for the whole length. And tie 5, 6, 8 and stop and check it. Now, if it gets off on you, and it's going to, is what you want to do. If they're too long, you want to tilt the gauge this way. See what I'm doing? I tilt the gauge up that way and tie one and stop and check it. If they're too short, then you're going to tilt the gauge down that way and tie a mess and take it off and check it. Shouldn't get too bad on you, but do keep a good watch on that, because you want that thing pretty when you, oh, what the hell have I got there? I got an extra knot on an extra loop. But anyway, I don't think I need to do any more. I've covered this. This is I'm beating a dead, what's the old saying, beating a dead horse?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this is a little net that I'm going to use as a demonstrator. We got a couple of, I got a couple of things coming up in March that I do part of my heritage stuff, and another thing. So this line, see what I'm doing? I'm putting a couple of half hitches because I won't be doing this for a while. I don't want that line loosening on that needle. If you don't do that, it'll loosen. It's already, see how it does? I don't care how hard you try. And when you fill that needle, you mentioned that. When you're filling that needle, pull it tight. Keep it tight. Don't have any slack in it. Because if you don't want to have issues down the line. I'll tell you what. I think I covered enough. I've taken up enough of your time. And quick story. I love my little story. I got a phone call from a guy in Belize. You know where Belize is, down, what, Central America, South America?
South of Mexico.
South of Mexico, Belize. Yeah, it's at the end of Mexico, isn't
Right.
it? Yeah, right at the end of Mexico.
In the Gulf.
Belize. Beautiful country. And I got a call from I made him a net before. In fact, I made him two. And now he wants another one. Anyway, he's having trouble. He's a charter boat. I guess he runs I'm assuming he runs a charter boat. He catches his bait, and he's having trouble. He catches his bait at night. Apparently he's got off a dock, and he goes out there at night to catch his bait for his fishing trip, you know, the next day coming up. And he's having trouble. I said, well, what kind of, oh, he said it's a little white minnow, a fish about so big, but, you know, 4 or 5 inches long. So I made him a net larger than 5/8, under 3/4, but somewhere close to 3/4. But anyway, I made him an 8-foot. Didn't sink fast enough for him, so I made him a 10-foot with extra weight on it. I'm in a heavier sinker. He tickled to death with that. But here's his problem. Not only does he cast around the dock to catch his bait at night, but he's catching 10, 12-pound snook. Holy cow, 10 or 12-pound snook. That's a good, what's that, Phil? That's that snook that's that big, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good sized fish.
Anyway, now snooker, they're around the gill plates are sharp as around the mouth. It's sharp. And what it's doing is that with all their twisting and turning around, that's a heavy fish. I said, oh yeah, I don't have no trouble catching them. Anyway, they knocking holes in his net. Well, I don't know what to tell him about that. I told him, first net I ever made for him, he was going to have issues catching snook in a casting net. So it's nothing new, but he's now he wants me to make him another 10-foot net out of 50-pound test. I've been using 30. That's 30-pound test there. You see how small a diameter that is. Anyway, he wants me to make him another net, another 10-foot net out of 50-pound test Dacron. For what it's worth, so that's what I'll do for him. I thought about maybe making it out of spectra fiber, but spectra fiber it's awfully hard to work with. It's cut your hands. It's such a small diameter. Even 50-pound test spectra fiber would be smaller than that 30-pound test Dacron. Now, it is strong. It's tough. But I don't want to get into that. I've made some nets out of spectre fiber. Terribly expensive. Twice the price of that. But anyway, I guess we've covered everything. Phil, you got anything to add?
Nope.
Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to shut this thing down for today, and we'll come up with something. If you got any suggestions, don't feel free to email us. My email address is menorcanmagic@gmail.com. That's MENORCANMAGIC, or Usina, USINAMIKE, Usina Mike @gmail.com. Or the all important now, if you call and leave a message, I had somebody call and left a message. They didn't leave their area code. I can't call them back. So if you're going to call and leave a message on the recorder, make sure you leave your area code and your number. So here it's 904-217-7974. If you want to give me a call, I'd like to hear from you. With any questions, I can probably answer any question you have about making a net. Certainly, I would think after 70 plus years. But anyway, with all of that said, you guys, wherever you're at, take care of yourself and stay safe. And spring's coming up, and be ready to enjoy your spring and summer. That sound good, Phil?
Sure does.
We ready to go?
Ready to go.
All right, guys. Take care of yourself.